NFL mock draft time. This is one of my favorite things to do all year, and I've not done a single one all season long. The format for this is one, we are doing what we think the team should do. So Zahn is first on the board here. He thinks he's going to pick who he thinks the Carolina Panthers should take at first overall. That's the first piece here. And secondly, we're just kind of going round robin with this. So Zahn's going to have the first pick, the fourth pick, and we're going to go all the way down until the 12th overall pick. And then we're calling it there because I feel like after that, there's a big teardrop and you can kind of pick whoever you want at that point. And it's going to be wrong no matter what. So we'll see how many of these we get right. And it'll be kind of fun to look back on. So Zahn, you are on the clock with the first overall pick. Who do you think the Carolina Panthers select?
I think it's the one that everybody's talking about. It's a cheap answer, but I think it's CJ Stroud. They've got a great defense, a young defense who can help keep you in the game or even sometimes win you games. So you don't need a guy like Richardson to come in there and try to be Superman right away or even in a couple years. Like, that's not the guy that team needs. They need a guy who can come in there and be consistent, make efficient and effective reads of the field, go through his progressions correctly. And I think that's CJ Stroud. I mean, Bryce Young is also a great prospect, but what you see from Stroud at Ohio State just really seems to work well with the Panthers, a team that's got a young core. Yeah, they traded away DJ Moore. That kind of makes things difficult. But I think they have a good defense. They've got a good coaching staff now. I just think CJ Stroud's the answer.
Wait, do you not like Matt Rule? Is that what you're telling me? You didn't like him in Carolina?
No, not at all. Yeah, you're a fan of him now, Mr. Nebraska.
I have to be, yeah. I fully agree with you. James, we're really good at picking guests. We pick guests that know ball. We are all team CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. No offense to Bryce Young, but if you had to put a gun to our head and we had to choose one, we're also going Stroud. So that gives James kind of a tough choice here. He no longer has the prodigal son. He no longer has CJ Stroud to pick from. Number 2 overall, James, who you going with the Houston Texans here?
Yeah, I think this is just kind of the consensus number 1 overall until CJ had an awesome season. I think the Texans are going to lose the number 1 overall pick, but still get the guy they wanted anyway. So it's kind of no harm, no foul with that loss. But they're going to grab Bryce Young at 2. They need the replacement to Deshaun. He's kind of seems to really fill that spot. If he was 2 inches taller, he'd be the consensus number 1. But he's 5'10", so it's kind of like that's your only knock on him, really.
Yeah. I think that the Texans are an enviable position here because they can kind of pick whoever doesn't get picked at first overall, and then they don't have anybody mad at them because they just took whoever was available. So I think Bryce is super strong there. I'm kind of in a tough position here, 3rd overall with the Arizona Cardinals. Don't need a quarterback. I'm not doing a trade here necessarily. I know from experience that the Lions having a 3rd overall pick, it can be really tough to trade down from this position. You kind of just have to pick whoever best fits your team and whoever best player available at the same time. So with this pick, I think it's fairly obvious, and I'm going to go Will Anderson Jr., linebacker out of Bama. Fits a lot of what they're trying to do. I'm not really 100% if they're even going to sign Isaiah Simmons back. And so he'll be able to kind of fit that pass rusher role. Simmons, last I saw him, was playing slot corner for some reason. I don't think the coaching staff there really knew what they were doing with him. And I think Anderson is just a world beater, a true Myles Garrett kind of level prospect at edge rusher. And happy to get probably the best player in the draft at 3rd overall here. Okay, Zahn, you are on the board, 4th overall.
For the Colts.
The Colts.
This is one where I think it's interesting. I think I have a difference of opinion what they should do and what they might do. I guess I've heard differing opinions of what the Colts might do. Obviously, they might trade up to 3 just to make sure they get their quarterback if they need it. But if they stay at 4, I mean, they need a quarterback. I think it's pretty apparent. Kind of the same thing with the Panthers. I don't think their defense is as strong, but they've got a good defense. They've got a really good, I think, new play caller with Shane Steichen coming in from the Eagles. So he really knows how to call a good offense, especially with a guy like Jonathan Taylor. That really opens up the offense. So I think I would go with Anthony Richardson here. I would probably be between Levis and Richardson. I just think Richardson has these traits that Steichen can really use. I think he's more raw than Jalen Hurts, but I think he brings a lot of the same things to the table. He can use his athleticism and a bunch of RPOs and things like that, and just hope and use your guys to help develop him in the passing game. I think that could make him into a really dangerous team if he does develop, but who knows if he does. But I think you take that risk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we love Anthony Richardson on this pod.
I don't know. I think you love Anthony Richardson. I'm so on him, but I think he's gonna get drafted pretty high. I think you mentioned one thing of the risk, the reward, etc. You're able to just take like team changing players here. I think the Seahawks have one hell of a culture, and they're willing to take what are kind of seen as risky players. I don't think this guy is risky, but he's had some things come out since the season that have made people really start to question how far he may fall. I don't think he falls out of the top five. I think if he's available, the Seahawks are grabbing Jalen Carter. I mean, they've dealt with big personalities before. Pete Carroll is a strong coach. They've got a good team culture there. They can handle having a guy that has just been, making a couple boneheaded decisions as a 23-year-old, but like that kind of happens. You're 23, like it just is what it is. I think they're feeling okay, and they're going to grab a generational talent in Jalen Carter.
Yeah, he's kind of been falling a little bit. If you're looking at like the average mock draft, it feels like he's kind of probably goes somewhere between 5 and 10. So you're right at the higher end of that right now, which I think is apt. Like Jalen Carter is just a freak player, very Ndamukong Suh like, and being at Georgia and everything. So I'm really excited for his future, even with all the off the field stuff. 6th overall, I got the Lions pick here. Did I do that on purpose? Maybe. It was a random number generator. Nobody will ever know. I'm in a kind of a tough position here, in my opinion, just because I think this is where the tier break really hits. There's a true top 5, and then after that, it's like, a lot of people maybe want Will Levis here. I'd kill myself if we chose Will Levis at 6. The guy that I'm going to go with here is a corner, Devin Witherspoon from James's Illini. I think Witherspoon is the best corner in this draft. He's a little bit on the older side, being a senior, but I think he has all the tools, all the physicality, and the Lions just need good defenders. We have good players all across the offense, but no good defenders. Really need defenders at all 3 levels. So I'm just going at the spot where it feels like we don't really have any of the young prospects, like if Okuda doesn't end up getting re-signed or at least his option picked up. And we have a lot of older guys that we picked up in free agency, but who knows how long those guys will stick around. So I like taking the high upside prospect of Witherspoon here.
I also love the fact that you're just ignoring the fact Aiden Hutchinson finished 2nd in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting, acting like there's no good, talented players on your defense.
Trash. Overrated. We don't like Aiden Hutchinson.
Gosh.
Dude, I still need to make that video tracking all of his sacks and like how trash they are. They're half sacks or the quarterback ran right to him. Not talented. Anyway. Next up, we got Zahn with the Raiders.
Ooh, I could really make Mason mad here. The Raiders are in a weird position because, like, getting to watch them play the Chiefs twice a year, there's so many holes on that team. Like their defense compared to the other 2 teams I picked for is very bad. So you could go any of those premier players on defense. They need a quarterback because I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is getting it done. I mean, he got it done with the Niners, but they also had one of the best defenses in recent history at the time. I mean, he got into a Super Bowl, but it was pretty much the defense. So I don't think he's doing that with the Raiders. I think the Raiders might go with Levis if all of these other quarterbacks in front of him are gone. I think if Richardson was available, they might go with him. Just try to keep pace with Mahomes and hope he turns into a guy like that. But I could see them liking Levis, a big guy, big frame, who can throw the ball all over the field. It could possibly, I know we probably don't think too highly of him, but his ceiling could maybe keep up with the Chiefs at times on his best day. So I could see the Raiders taking a chance on that.
The next Jamarcus Russell. It just makes too much sense. A marriage made in heaven. All right, next up we got James with the Falcons.
I was hoping he wouldn't go Levis because I think a very enticing trade would be Titans up into the top 10. And since I have Titans Falcons, I guess I get to make that pick for them. I might have tried to trade up and grab Levis because the Titans are definitely shopping for a quarterback at this point. I mean, I guess maybe you could think Malik Willis is about to turn it all around and be the guy, but no signs of that last year, even towards the end of the season. However, in saying that, the Falcons now with number 9, tons of holes to fill. I think it's tough because they're pretty bad on both sides of the ball, and I don't think they have a very competent front office. So like, I don't know if they're going to make the smart pick. I think they're going to go with the flashy pick here and probably go Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. Just try to get that big pass rusher if he falls this low.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people have Tyree really high. We talked about last week. We got cut off at the end, James, but I'm not a big fan of Tyree Wilson, but I think in terms of what we think they're going to do, I think that's very apt. You pair him with Calais Campbell on the interior side of the defensive line, and that could be a pretty formidable start right at the beginning of this rebuild that the Falcons have going on. I had the 9th overall pick here for the Chicago Bears. This is probably my favorite match in terms of prospect and team. And that's going Skronsky, the offensive tackle out of Northwestern. Feels like the Northwestern Wildcats just pump out NFL talent, but then also go 1-11 in the regular season. We don't talk about the one team that they actually beat. And I think that this is just super good for the Chicago Bears. They got an offensive weapon for DJ Moore, for Justin Fields, and now they get someone to protect Justin Fields and get Peter Skronsky. So very short drive from Evanston to Chicago. I think this is a match made in heaven. All right, 10th overall. Zahn, last pick in our mock draft here that you have.
Yeah, Eagles they're in a good position. I mean, they brought back a lot of the important players that were on that Super Bowl team. They obviously lost a couple of their linebackers, stuff like that, but they brought back both their corners. So they could go corner. I could see Gonzalez out of Oregon being the guy there. I was probably going to pick Skronsky if he was there because he could play interior. And then when Lane Johnson's done in a couple of years, you could probably hope he comes and plays tackle. I'd probably go Gonzalez just because Bradbury's getting a little bit older. I don't remember how many years they brought him back for, but it wasn't too many. So, and Darius Slay, I don't really know what's going on there. Like he was going to get released and then didn't, then he's back. I don't know. So I think they need a blue chip guy at the corner position. And I think Gonzalez is the guy after Witherspoon.
Love that. Chip Kelly, get all the Oregon guys to the Eagles. Big fan. All right, James, last pick that you got here. Tennessee Titans, 11th overall.
I think I keep getting sniped here by Zahn. I think that's just kind of the element of there's only so many guys at elite positions and in the top, 15 here. And like once they're gone, they're gone. I think same as Skronsky was still here. The Titans absolutely would be looking for a Taylor Lewan replacement. I think when it comes down to it, I'm pretty high on Calais Campbell, but I don't know if necessarily that, I don't know the Titans will have to know if that's what they need. I think what they end up probably doing, just positional relevance here, I'm thinking like a Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. Tentatively a top 3 corner, depends on who you ask. I mean, top 5 to top 3, but I think it ends up being a corner here. They need to really shore up that defense. And I don't know, they had a rough season, but I think, getting what they feel would be an elite corner is probably a pretty easy pick to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good marriage there. Just a good, really strong prospect, has a football family going to Tennessee. They need to have someone to replace Adoree Jackson. I think that's just really smart all the way around. Next and last, I have the Houston Texans here, the team that I'm right next to, all the way just right down the street from Energy Center. I think that the Texans just need best player available. They need as much talent as they possibly can get, but in particular, they really need wide receiver talent. If you look at their wide receiver room right now, which in our mock draft, we have Bryce Young as the quarterback here, it's just a bunch of nobodies. They're getting scraps from the Cowboys and Noah Brown. They have John Mechie, which I like Mechie, but is he really going to come back super strong from all the stuff that he's been going through? That's kind of up in the air at this point, the former 2nd overall pick. So here I'm going with my number 1 wide receiver prospect, and I'm going Jackson Smith-Njigba. It really feels like a lot of the question marks that have been surrounding JSN recently are really starting to disappear. A lot of his former players, a lot of his former peers and coaches have really been talking him up lately. And yeah, he had a shit 2022, but I feel like his 2021, it was elite and probably better than any other Ohio State wide receiver we've seen in a long time, which is pretty incredible stuff to say given Terry McLaurin, Michael Thomas, et cetera, that we've seen in the Buckeyes uniform. I think JSN makes a lot of sense in Houston, so I'm going there at 12th overall.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think JSN he's going to end up going way higher. Earlier, all the receivers were projecting out of the top 15. I think they're starting to sneak back up as more and more Zay Flowers love and JSN love is getting put out there.